It took a while for things to get going, but Boston College rolls over Fordham. Easy win for the Eagles.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. Thank you all for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. We are going live today from the press box here at Boston College, where we're talking about BC's 66-10 win over Fordham. It started off slow, but by the second half, it turned into one of the biggest crushings that we've seen BC put on a team since Howard. What did we watch? What did we see in this game? And that, I think really dictates how we're going to talk about this. So let's look at first Dylan Larnagin. Larnagin, we didn't know what we're going to get out of him. We didn't, I think there was a lot of excitement going into this game about, what he could and couldn't do and how he's going to run this offense. Well, for most of the game, he played 3 quarters, and he threw for 4 touchdown passes. He started off really hot. He hit Jaden Skeet. He had a touchdown to Jordan McDonald. He hit Skeet again, and then Reed Harris late in the game made an incredible catch, probably the biggest highlight reel catch of this game. I thought Larnagin looked good. He made good decisions. He was quick in getting the ball out. I didn't see a ton of mental mistakes out of him or anything I would worry about. There was that middle period at the beginning, the second quarter specifically, where the offense just kind of were trying to establish a run and it just wasn't working. And he kind of looked out of sync a little bit too. But once that second half started, there was no turning back. They just put Fordham in the meat grinder and just, ran away with this win. So I loved what I saw so far. Again, it's Fordham. You have to take that with a grain of salt, but it's a good, you do what you do with the team ahead of you. So there's definitely things about Larnagin's game you want to see get better. There was a few times where he looked like he had happy feet, a little bit of hesitations and not trusting himself. But, as the game progressed, we saw, him just get more and more confident. So it's his first start. I think it's a good way for him to get things going. But he's going to have a real test next week against Michigan State. Now, talking about that offense as well, we have to bring up the running game. The running game averaged 2.5 yards per carry, and it was not effective at all. And I don't know if this is going to be a big concern for the season, if there's something going on with the offensive line, if it was Fordham just really pushing to stop the run. But BC could not get anything going. We saw Turbo Richard. He'd been out for most of the camp. We have not seen him play. He gets out there, and he struggled. You got to be frank, he just could not get the ball going, and it really was not part of their offense. And again, when they really relied on that run game, that is when BC's offense struggled. So once they kind of moved away from that and realized it wasn't working, the offense got going. And so I'm a little worried about it. Is it code red, big concern yet? I don't think it's there yet, but we need to see this offensive line do better. They need to do a better job of opening holes. They didn't do, that was the thing that I noticed was every time they ran the ball, it was, 2 yards in a cloud of dust. It was nothing impressive. So that has to be something BC gets better at. That's, if I'm Bill O'Brien, I'm pointing to that as the big takeaway. We got to figure this out, because otherwise I thought the game plan was pretty sound. Now, additionally on offense, the end of the game, who did we see come in? Grayson James. The professional that he is, and I kind of dig that Bill let him just kind of run the offense. I'm sure Fordham's coach was not happy about it, but he goes out there and, he throws balls all over the place. It was like Grayson James of old. Of course, he's playing against Fordham, and it's late in a blowout, but he hits VJ Wilkins. He hits Dawson Pugh for a number of plays, and I think he was 5 for 5 for close to 200 yards in just like a quarter. So we got to see a little bit of him, and I think in terms of offensive play, other than that little blip that they had in the middle there, it was a pretty good performance. I think Larnagin was sacked once. And I think that was a coverage sack. I don't remember him seeing. I think he held on the ball for a while and just couldn't see it. But, you're looking at how this team performed, how they were able to move the ball. They had close to 600 yards. That's all you can ask for. So, against Fordham, you go out there, you beat them. they beat them and beat them pretty handily. Now, the defensive side of the ball, I loved what this defense did in this game. And, you had a quarterback, Gunnar Smith, who, was doing a lot of RPO type of stuff. And there was a few times where BC got caught, going after the wrong ball and missing who had, getting confused with that. But it wasn't anything big. I mean, they only put together 150 plus yards in this game. And, most of that came in just true garbage time, like when they scored their second touchdown. So I thought the defense looked great. Bam Crouch was everywhere in this game. I told you guys. I told you, watch out for Bam because he is, he's going to be an explosive player for this team. He had 2 sacks, a interception, and a touchdown. And really, his touchdown really was kind of the big moment for this game. Like they, it was like 21-3, and it was after halftime. Things weren't going all that great. The game was getting kind of like a drag. And then second play of the second half, boom, Bam's gone. And that was a big moment. And, looking at the rest of the defense, the secondary, that was about as lights out as it gets because Fordham couldn't do anything against that secondary. The only plays that really Fordham were able to get until they kind of dug into the depth chart came on runs and really some poor special teams plays early in the game. I'll get into those in our second segment, but I looked at how this defense played. Sire Torrance, 2 pass breakups like immediately in this game. I've been crowing about him since camp. I watched him at camp. I saw him going against Jaden Skeet, going against Reed Harris, and holding his own, not only holding his own, but looking good out there. He is going to be your good cornerback. He was out there with Amari Jackson with the ones, but as Bill has said, in this game specifically, it wasn't really the ones and the twos. There were guys out there all the time. Like Marcellus Townsend was in there in the first quarter. I don't know what, and I saw Josiah Griffin out there. Like they had guys in all over the place. And that was great because instead of just having all your twos come in late in the game, you gave them some valuable snaps. And I love the way that they did that. So, you saw some good plays by them. Omar Thornton, another big play in this game. Like he's going to be a special defender. Now, the interesting thing that I wanted to bring up about the defense was a change in how they put their depth chart. Now, a couple people have texted me because I couldn't find him out there, was that Cam Martinez did not play. I didn't see him out there. And of course, apparently on TV, you could see him in the back in street clothes. So I don't know what happened there, but that left an open spot at the nickel back. And so BC did what I was hoping they would do all along, which is put Carter Davis there because Carter Davis is excellent. And if you can go out there with KP Price, Carter Davis, and Omar Thornton, that makes your defense even better. And he played nickel, and he had a number of big plays in this game. And I thought he played excellent. I think he had a 12-yard sack as well. So I liked how they adjusted their defense there to get a guy in that you really wanted to see. So overall, when you're looking at the defense, they had 3 sacks in this game. Not bad. And again, Mitch Wolf, who was on our show last week, nailed it. The sacks were coming from different places. So you may be concerned about the defensive line, and I get that. But you saw sacks coming from Bam. You saw it from Carter Davis. Like it wasn't coming from the traditional spots. And Micah Ameti had one very late in the game too. So, maybe the pass rush might be something we need to watch for. But in a moment, I want to discuss with you what my thoughts on special teams were, because this was an area that was a big concern going into the season. And we got some answers, but maybe some still that were areas where you're looking to see if things will get better. We'll talk about that in just a moment. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's just nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping out at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals on baseball and college football. I love their zone deals, too. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seat, and you save save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. And thank you all who have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every day. And if you're looking for another podcast, check out Locked On ACC with Kenton Gibbs and Alex Donald. I've been recently on their panels, and I apparently have completely whiffed on my thoughts on the FSU Alabama game, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But we're going to talk more about BC because the special teams was something that had popped its ugly head up last year, and it was really a detriment to BC. They couldn't kick field goals, they couldn't punt, and that was a big problem. Did they find an answer in this week's game? And the answer is, well, yes, on that part, but a new issue came up, and I'll explain that in just a moment. So punting, Seamus Florio ends up winning the job late. Bill O'Brien announces it this week. He's the kid from Yale. We're excited to see what he can do. He comes out there, and he looks great. A couple kicks. He averaged 47 yards per punt. Can you imagine that last year? Last year, we were just hoping it would go 25, 20 yards. We have a 47-yard punter, a punter averaging 47 yards. That is a Christmas gift for Boston College fans out there because I don't think anyone expected that. He looked good. The punts were right where they need to be. Were they perfect? No. Of course, there's going to be room to improve. But he had a big game, and I loved watching that. It was really nice to see that this year BC definitely will not have the worst punting unit in the country and will probably have a pretty good one. So that was good to see. Additionally, I know a lot of folks have been asking about kickoffs. We saw, I think it was Luca Lombardo kicking off the first half. And in the second half, Andy Quinn, the punter from Ireland, also had a chance to kick off. Both guys were just booming them through the end zone, especially Quinn. I think Andy Quinn should be I think him specifically, he should be the kickoff specialist going forward because his kicks were going well outside the end zone. So if you don't want the opposing teams to even get a chance, to me, Andy Quinn looks like the answer. But maybe Bill's seen more than that. Additionally, field goals. BC was last in the country last year, 5 field goal attempts the entire year. And it really all went down the drain when Luca Lombardo got hurt against Michigan State last year. This game, they went for a 46-yard field goal, and believe me, I was like, oh gosh, this is going to go poorly. And what did Lombardo do? He hits it off the bottom crossbar, boom, hits it. Lucky, but hey, 3 points is 3 points. So they did that, and he hit all his extra points. Again, that's all you can ask for. What I didn't like were 2 things on special teams. First of all, Isaiah Ferris, his decision-making on some of those punts were a little bit baffling to me. On his first one, he just let it bounce and then go 20 yards behind him. And it ended up being like a 65-yard punt. Didn't like that one. And then basically he gets the same punt the second time and then not fumbles it, but bubbles it a little bit and ends up getting hit. I thought, he wasn't the most, he was reliable. He didn't turn it over, but I thought, there's got to be, I would love to have seen Bo McCormick. I would have loved to have seen maybe some of the other guys on that roster get a chance there. So when it comes to what that piece is coming up and what you can do there, I was not the biggest fan with how they were doing with their kicking. Additionally, hi Mac. Additionally, I didn't like some of their coverage, especially on that first kickoff. BC had that guy dead to rights at like the 5-yard line and just could not get him down to the ground. So, that needed to clean up. But near the end of the game, they looked a lot better there. And I have to mention him because he was clearly an emphasis and they were rewarding him with kick returns at the end. Charlie Camella, punt block, that looked excellent for special teams out there. They were so close on getting a number of punt returns, but it was one in the third quarter that really set up BC to get an easy score there. So Camella, he's a local kid. I think he's the Varian brothers, with that was a nice touchdown. I mean, a nice punt block later in that game. So special teams, concerned pieces there, but things you can clean up, but you have serviceable weapons now. You can do all that kind of stuff. Now, other names in this game that I was excited to see do things. I love seeing VJ Wilkins. I'm telling you, I had not seen him practice, and I was at every practice this summer, fully, since the beginning of camp. Like it just seemed like something was lingering with him. So he caught a bomb from Grayson James. So did Dawson Pugh. He also had a couple big catches. Another couple names that I was really pumped to see. Chris Marable, who was out for a while. He played at defensive tackle. We saw him really go at it a little bit. And then there was a few other guys, especially at linebacker. Owen McGowan was in there. He had a big injury in the offseason, and then something else. I think, this camp, he got his chance to play out there. They were cycling between him and Jason Hewlett at different points. But, now that we're wrapping things up, what unit was I most impressed with in this game? I love the defense. I thought the defense played out of their minds. I would have loved to seen a little bit more from their front four, but man, that secondary looked really good, and Bam Crouch is going to be your star this year. He is very good. Love to see that. What was I most concerned about? The run game. It was kind of shocking to me how ineffective that run game was. And so that needs to improve. Now, in a moment, we're going to wrap things up with our final takeaways from this game. And we'll get into that in just a moment.
September 12, 2015. Right before I turned 30. You do the math on how old I am.
Hey, Boston College fans, are you paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here, and we will be on again on Monday's show. If you've not checked out our shows, Mitch Wolf will be with me to give his breakdown on this game. We'll dive in more into the numbers. What do we see? What are we worried about? Check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, wrapping things up about today's game. What are the big takeaways? I think it's hard to get a takeaway when you're playing a team like Fordham, because I had been warning you all along. I said Duquesne was bad last year, but Fordham was going to be worse. And it took a while for us to see how much better Boston College was and how much more physical and speed and all that good stuff. But it did take a little bit longer than you might have expected. But BC was clearly a better team. Now, my one question, I'd love to hear from you guys. Were you okay with Bill O'Brien running up the score at the end? How many teams, whether it was Jeff Halfley or Steve Adazio, where you would get a big lead and then it was just run, punt, as just to try to end the game? We didn't see any of that, Bill O'Brien. I kind of like this because it reminded me of the Patriots. Patriots, especially those dynasty teams, 2007, they would go up on teams and just completely bury them. And I thought the reason why I liked this was because you have Grayson James. This is a guy that you relied on last year after the disaster with Tom Castellanos. He goes out there and you let him run your offense. I thought that was totally fine. You got him to get the ball to some guys that you hadn't seen play. It was a good moment. And yeah, you ran up the score a little bit, but I still thought it was a great way to end the game for BC. I think what we're going to need to wait to see. What is it that we're going to be waiting to see? The offensive line. What does BC really still have there? Because against the rush, I'm not sure. It didn't look very promising. But, in pass rush, I thought they were fine. Mistakes, they were pretty good. There was no pre-snap penalties. In fact, only one penalty for BC this entire game, and it was a roughing the passer call against Jaden Fry real late in the game. So BC played about as clean as you can get in that end. So I look at BC. I look at what they did in this game. And this is exactly the, after that really kind of tough ending, tough middle part of that game where they were just not really all that effective. They did exactly what you expected. Going into this game, would you have said you would have been upset if they won 66-10? Most of you would say you're out of your mind, AJ. They were fine in this game. There's, with O'Brien and with this team, you got to clean some things up. And that was clear as day. Like, you want to make sure you can run the ball. You got to do a little bit better on some kick coverage. You want to work with Lonergan a little bit more to watch the film and see what he missed and things that were in front of him that maybe there was one play, for instance. He hit Reed Harris up the middle, but Jaden Skeet was wide open for a touchdown and he didn't see him. So, things like that. I'm sure, Will Long and O'Brien and DiBiase will work with him on that. But now we actually see what we have in front of us. I think, the depth was something that was really clearly on display here. I mean, you got guys out there playing in the first quarter that you may not have ever heard of before. Marcellus Townsend's out there. Ashton Cunningham's out there. You got players like Jason Hewlett playing. Eli Boykin played later in the game. These were all valuable reps, I think. So, wrapping things up, BC now is 1-0. It's exactly what you needed. There was no funny business in this game. And now it's looking ahead to Michigan State. Now you can prepare for your first real test. Michigan State won their opener against Western Michigan. And the piece that I watched, Aiden Childs looked very good. So this will be a real test for this defense. And honestly, it's going to be a real test for Lonergan too, because all of the difficulty of what we saw today is going to ratchet up a whole level because, the Spartans are good. They've got, guys like Nick Marsh out there, and I mentioned Childs. They've got some other good weapons, and it's on the road. That's going to be a big key factor for this game. So I thought it was a first, what you wanted from this game. You went in there, you dominated. You probably wanted to clean some things up, but now you work with your team on building from this, building from here. You didn't also very important. You didn't get anyone injured. That was super important because you do not want to leave this game. There was a moment too where Lewis Bond caught something on the sideline and ran into the yard marker, and the guy didn't drop it, and it just like smacked right into Bond, and he ended up in the injury tent. That was a scary moment because listen, you want to score lots of points and run up, the score or whatever, but you do not want to lose Lewis Bond. And luckily for him, it must have been just like a bruise or whatever, because he was out of that injury tent lightning quick. So that was the only point I noticed anyone getting hurt. In terms of guys that didn't play, we didn't see Owen Stardmeyer. Shaker Reisig is still out. I would guess he's probably going to redshirt this season, which is fine. And there were, a few other, like Cedric Lopp, which he's not going to play, and a few other guys like that. That was it. So BC's in good shape. They're going to have all their weapons when it comes to next Saturday's game. They escaped an FCS game without any issues and really looking pretty strong. Thank you all for listening to Locked On BC. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm in the press box, and hopefully there isn't too much sound here because it's, there's guys going in and out. And Mike Sidley was with me. It's great to meet him finally in person because we usually rotate where we're going, and he was here with me. He's at the press conference right now. I was going to do the show, and I have all sorts of articles up on Eagle Insider already. I got to go home in a couple of minutes, but we have takeaways, we have stories, we got all sorts of good stuff here on Locked On BC and on Eagle Insider. Thank you all. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I will be doing shows live from the press box and post game every game this year. So if you want to get this news, you need to make sure that you hit that subscribe button before we leave. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you again for Monday's show of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.